Hi, this is Joe with MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the H.E.R Network on Single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Single TV app in the respective App Store, iOS, and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Singo TV is also available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all smart TVs since 2016. I am Joe Peters, your host, and your BFF in everything around motherhood. My role here is helping you to win the marathon of motherhood because motherhood is a marathon, not a sprint, but doing it without burnout and without getting depleted. If you are not follow me yet, please go to Joe Unicorn Coach in Instagram and follow me. If you are having any questions or any doubts that you need help with in anything related to motherhood, to you as a mom, to you from your children's, go there to Instagram, Joe Unicorn Coach, and send me a DM. I handle my own social media. And my promise is if I don't have the answer, I will find the right expert like Jacquelyn that will come to the show and will help you. We are together. The reality is we need a village, we need community, and the purpose of MomFit is that we build that community, that you have that support around you with experts that will help you to be the mom that you want to be, not the mom that you have to be. I'm very excited because today we're going to be talking about community and the importance of authentic connection in postpartum. Oh, I am super excited because Jacquelyn is the founder and CEO of Okionu Birth Foundation and Okionu app. It's a nonprofit organization and app that connects postpartum families of color to much needed culturally relevant postpartum care. Okionu Birth Foundation connects postpartum families of color to culturally relevant wrap around support in the form of meal delivery, mental health services, variety of professional service. With over 20 years of experience as a birth and postpartum doula, mother of three, she brings both professional and personal insight to her work. Jacqueline's innovation around tech and authentic leadership in the mental health, maternal health field has allowed continued transformation in the lives of families and organizations she consults. And this is very special to my heart because when you see the numbers, the reality is no matter how people don't want to see it, the reality is women of color, people of color are leading the charge into maternal mortality, baby mortality in the first trimester. They are the group in more risk. They are the group that need the most support. I am honored and grateful that you are here with us and that you are doing this beautiful job working with these moms to have that support that they need. And let's gonna start a little bit with how you create this foundation. What is your story? How you keep going? And I always ask my guests for a phrase. And your phrase is a very empowering phrase. Keep going in capital. It is super simple, but that's the message. No matter what, keep going.
Yeah,
So, Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here. It's gonna start a little bit with your story and what was that flame that ignite that desire for you to create that foundation and help these moms in need.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My story began at a very young age, at 19 years old, getting into birth work very organically, supporting family and friends and community. And like you said, we're leading the maternal death rate. We are leading the infant mortality rates. And for me, it was seeing those things firsthand that lit the flame initially. And so getting into birth support around 19, 20 years old was how I got started in the work. And over the years, I consistently began to see some of the same challenges. It didn't matter if it was an Asian family, Latino family, Black family. I've served a very diverse group of clientele over the years. And I was seeing marriages fall apart, relationships break up. I was seeing a very, very heavy impact on families in that first year of having a baby. And so a few years ago, I began looking and trying to find specifically the commonalities. And every single time there was a complaint around not having enough food, or the partner at birth not being able to provide food and meals for the family because they're exhausted with the new baby. All kinds of childhood traumas were resurfacing towards the end of the pregnancy and during the birth experience. And I was like, oh, wow, it doesn't matter what class of person, it doesn't matter if they were low income, if they were upper class or middle class, they were all experiencing these same challenges, especially people of color. That led me to founding Okionu Birth Foundation, where we specifically address meals for postpartum families within that first year, as well as group mental health therapy support. But we know culturally we have specific issues and challenges. And so our mental health support and even our meal selection is catered to those cultural differences, and making sure that the services that we provide are actually culturally relevant. And so I'm a woman of color. I've given birth 3 times to 3 beautiful children. I know what it's like. I've suffered with postpartum depression myself in my second pregnancy. It was very challenging. And I had those same issues. I wasn't eating properly. I didn't have people around me consistently to support me and help navigate that. And so not only do I have the lived experience personally, I have the professional experience of witnessing it happen over and over with my clients.
I love that. And it is a reality, right? And I love how it's going into the place. And we're going to be talking a little bit about this, but um, it's as simple as things. One of the things that I tell my moms when I coach them is to include a meal train in their baby shower. So when everybody's excited about bringing baby gifts to the baby, have it there and make them sign up. Hey, not make them, but say, hey, this will really help my family for the first 3 6 months. If you can pick 1 or 2 times, 3 times during 6 months that you can be the one bringing some food to my family, some simple things like that that nobody thinks about when they are pregnant, and then you get a struggle is so important. And I love what you said. I love the part of the variety, and one of the things that I want to talk with you about this on um, justice and inclusion is, as a Latina I also feel it and see it, is these Asian, Black American, Black groups, Latina groups, we tend to also have less support around us because we are either recent immigrants, so we
Mhm.
are away from our families, or we are living not in a community that is supportive of our culture. So, for example, when I was postpartum, I had a lot of traditions in Colombia that
Mhm.
never happened here because I didn't have anybody here with the experience and the knowledge to do them for me in the postpartum. In Colombia, we call them cuarentena. It's the 40 days after you give birth. And then you have some baths and some herbs and some things that are very into my culture that I just didn't have access to because I am by myself in Ohio, in the middle of the Midwest. So, and then the other one is I see that a lot of moms, and I don't know if you have statistics on this, but people of color, moms of color, had a higher rate of being a single mom. That created even a stronger challenge because then you don't even have a partner. And I was telling some of my single moms 2 or 3 weeks ago, my husband was traveling and I was sick. And I literally was in with my group crying, saying, I have a different level of admiration for you because I don't know how you do it. Like I am going to die, and it's only 1 week, just me and my toddler. But all of that create that part of that support, and I love that you are creating that support for these families. And I love that it's not a cookie cutting, right? Because that is a very privileged thing. Is I'm helping, and this is what I have available for you, but that you are carrying into understanding based on your culture what is the package that will support your process the most. And one thing that I'm very interested in what you are doing is that you are doing it for a full year. Like, I think that just now people are starting to get aware of the fourth trimester, and there is a 1%, probably including you, that are aware that postpartum is a lot more than the first 3 months.
Yeah.
Actually, the first 3 months, you and your baby still believe that you are one. Is
Me
the
too.
fourth trimester of the pregnancy. So that is not post. If we are going to talk official terms, that officially is not postpartum, because on those first 3 months, both your body and your baby think that you are still in that fourth
Yeah.
trimester, like what is called fourth trimester. I was actually reading a book from a guy from Australia, saying that there are some research now that are saying that it can take up to 7 years for a woman to fully recover from giving birth. So I
Yep.
love how you're doing it for a year. It's going to talk a little bit about how important it is to have curate support to create a space to decompress, and what is the danger to not have that curative support to decompress.
So you touched on so many good points here when we're talking about the specific demographic of women and moms of color giving birth. And so when you take into consideration some of those statistics of being single, being away from your culture, I am a traditional postpartum practitioner. So I'm very familiar with the 40 days quarantena. I have many clients from Morocco, Mexico, all these different cultures that honor that season. One of the key components there is rest, right? The other key components is making sure that you are warm, you're being fed, you're given space to bond with your baby, which sets the precedent for your entire relationship and even your parenting connection with that particular child. And so when you're talking about curating your postpartum experience, I have seen and experienced personally that it's not just anyone supporting you. That's where the curating piece comes in. I'm sure we're all familiar with the in-laws that are very invasive and obnoxious, and just they make the situation sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes it's your own parents and your own family. And so when you're talking about mental health and you're talking about being in a healthy, curated environment postpartum, one of the first things you want to do is make sure that you authentically feel supported with the people that are going to be in the home with you. If you have a family member that sends your blood pressure through the roof as soon as they come through the door, that's not someone you want to have. As picky as it sounds, that's not the person you want volunteering the most on your meal train, right? Because that person's going to be in your home, they're going to be causing you stress. So it's very important that while you're actually pregnant, you have a really honest conversation with yourself, with your partner, with your spouse, even with your children, if you have older children, about who are the people in your life, cousins, family, friends, that everyone feels comfortable with and that they feel at ease with. And then begin to make a list of people that can actually come into your home and help facilitate an environment of peace. If they're coming to help clean, if they're coming to just help hold the baby while you grab a shower, it's important that primarily mom is comfortable with this person and that this person is not elevating their blood pressure, causing them to go into a frenzy, feeling anxious around those people. You don't want any of those people, if possible, in your home. And so you want to be very intentional about that. You also want to know, who do you trust? Now, in those first few months when you're bonding with baby, you could be very picky. I don't want anyone to hold the baby but me.
I don't trust anybody.
Exactly. And so when you're curating support, you have to know who you are. You have to know your personality. You have to know how you are with that baby. And you want to pick and choose people according to your actual comfort. Just because someone says, "Give me that baby, you go do this," if you don't trust that person and you're not comfortable with that person, even though they're offering support, you're going to be very uncomfortable and anxious. And so, if there are tasks that you feel comfortable assigning to people that don't involve areas of discomfort for you, then you want to make sure you're properly assigning people to what they can actually help with, and not allowing them, like you said, it's very privileged to say, "Hey, I'm going to help you like this," and that's it. You want to flip that around and say, "Listen, these are the areas I feel comfortable with your supporting my family. are you available to do this, this, and this? And you can just be very intentional, start the process. I definitely recommend starting that process in the second trimester, third trimester, so that you don't feel rushed and you don't feel overwhelmed or pressured while you're already at home, trying to recoup. The other thing is if you have preferences of lifestyle, nutrition, family values, you want to make sure that as you're curating support, that everyone is aware of your standards and your values so that boundaries are not being crossed and it's not causing again that anxiety or that pressure or that discomfort while you're trying to rest. Because even though we don't admit it, as living in this country, we live in a very high state of stress and discomfort and we think it's normal. You don't need that at all when you're trying to heal after having a baby. And so there's little things you can do, like making sure you have people in your home that are honoring your boundaries. Even if they don't share your values, you communicate your values so that they know when they come into your space and they're supporting you, that there's an expectation there that you can trust they're going to follow the things that you desire. All of this contributes to a positive mental health state, not just for mom, but for baby, and then also for the spouse, the other children. And it helps to keep peace in the home.
I love that. And that is something that I want to talk with you because it's part of that. I know that is one of your takeaways, is a part of those boundaries and us taking ownership. That I always tell my moms, like, you are the head coach. And your job as the head coach is to be the head coach. There are all other coaches that support the head coach, but as the head coach, you are the one that calls the moves. You are the one to organize. I always give them this example of in football, there is a coach that the only role of that coach is pay attention to the referee. And if the referee is going to crush the head coach because that create a penalty and cost points, that coach job job is move the head coach to make sure the head coach don't get run over. So it's important that we get that confidence, and I want to talk with you on how we do that. I love how you are saying it's so preventive. Is that confidence to happen in the second trimester, had to happen in the third trimester, those conversations that may be difficult because normally I think that we all as females, but especially we as minority females, have that fear of speaking up, of saying what we want. We don't want conflict, and then studying that and say, hey, this is what I need.
Mhm.
This is what I want. And is like with in-laws, with our own family. Like I remember the conversation that I had. My baby was the first baby of my grandparent, my husband's parents. So they were very excited. And then I had to have the difficult conversation of saying, I don't want them the first 2 weeks. I know that they want to be here as soon as they know that we're going to be in labor. Thank goodness my mother-in-law was not one of those that want to be in the hospital. So I didn't have to have that conversation. But, but I say 2 weeks. And then I knew that was hard for them. But as I put it my boundary and say, this is what I want. And then I told my husband, say like, I did a lot of research. I want to do a lot of skin to skin. I don't want to be worried about walking in my house in underwear, completely naked, maybe with a rope and my baby in my chest. If your father is here, I will not be as comfortable, and he probably is not going to be comfortable with me walking naked. So no, 2 weeks. And then what happened was I had postpartum depression and anxiety very strong too. At the
Mhm.
2 week mark, they already were planning to come. We had to call them and say, you need to postpone the trip. We are not ready right now. We cannot receive you right now. Joa and the baby are handling a lot of things right now. We need you to give us another, I think that we asked them another week or another 2 weeks. So, and being almost a month before they came, but that was honoring what I wanted. And I could not imagine how much stress will be if they were here, even if they want to help. So one of the things that I want to say that I love what you said is, please, if you are a mom and you're hearing this, cut this part and cut the part that Jacquelyn said and show it to everybody around you. It can be a clip in your baby shower advertising. And if you are an ally, if you are a person that had somebody that is pregnant or having a baby, please know this is going to sound hard, but it's gone. What you want is not important. We don't care. If you really want to help, It's not what you will prefer. Oh, I'm gonna help you holding the baby, or I'm gonna help you. No, it's not that. Is if you are going from a servant leadership, is showing up and telling the mom, where do you want me to help? And then I love what you are saying on the being preventive in the second trimester and third trimester. That is something else that I want to hear your opinion is. Another one that I always tell people is do not ask a mom with a newborn how you can help, because that mom don't have time and the space in their brain to think about anything else but their baby. So that mom is going to and telling you, it's okay, we are okay, we don't need anything. So be preventive, create it ahead of time. Moms, create the list of the things that you want help with ahead of time. And then one of the things that I want to talk with you on alternatives, and I think that this is part of your foundation, is what about those moms that are like, oh yes, Jacqueline, Joe, that sounds very beautiful and very romantic, idyllic, but I don't have family. I don't have many friends. So even if I create the list, even if I have this clarity, there are not enough warm hands to fill the spots. And then
Yeah.
they can start feeling that hopelessness of that is a privilege that I am not able to enjoy. I'm not worthy of that because I don't have that community.
I'll say two things here. All of this begins with self awareness and honesty. If you don't have a strong support system, if you are away from your family, if you don't have a ton of people in your life that you trust, this is going to be something that you need to be very um, ahead of during your pregnancy. This is something that you're going to want to be super intentional about as early as possible. In those cases, I definitely recommend connecting with a local postpartum doula or a birth doula so you at least have one person in your life that you can trust, maybe two. Join some mom groups. A lot of people I know find a lot of great mom friends on like Peanut, the app. You want to make sure that you're connecting, even if it is virtually, with at least one or two people. This is not a huge kumbaya moment with 10, 20 people in your home rubbing you down with oil and not, it doesn't need to be that. If you have one or two good people that you trust as a mom, if you're single and if you don't have that support system, it's very important that you take initiative here. There are a lot of free state run and local initiatives to help people that are low income or single parents, but you have to plug in a little bit earlier because the resources may not be available as soon as you need them postpartum. You want to look at your local Healthy Start organizations. They have a lot of resources and supplies for new mothers, a lot of courses that you can take, a lot of groups that you can join. You want to be very intentional about building your community and feeling people out while you actually have the energy to do so. All of this, once you want to do all of this as early in your pregnancy as possible. The other thing is when it comes to food and meals. Now, with our foundation, we connect with local meal prep companies. People are able to select their preference of off the menu and have that delivered to them. That's something that is 6 weeks at no cost to these families. But when you're thinking about, okay, I'm in this situation, I don't have a ton of money, what that may look like is you having that one or two friends come over in that third trimester, prepare some meals. You might need to stock your freezer. It's not ideal, but when you're looking at cost and you're looking at energy, it's way better to have a few huge Ziploc bags of a few meals that you don't need to do anything but warm up than it is to feel stranded and maybe even struggling with breastfeeding because you're not getting proper nutrition. So it's all about self-awareness. Look at your actual situation for what it is. Be honest with yourself about the supports that you do and you don't have. Settle on 1 to 3 people that you find trustworthy and very helpful and stick with them through your pregnancy and as long as possible, but certainly through those first 2 years. I think if everyone does that, will begin to kind of look, because I think when you're putting on those rose colored glasses, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing your baby a disservice. And you could be married and do that. You can go, oh my gosh, my husband's going to do this and that. You might be married to someone that does not have the capacity to support you the way that you need. And that's okay. We don't have to judge your spouse. You just need to be honest about what your support system looks like, what your life looks like, and then take initiative and be intentional about curating realistic support based upon what your life looks like. And so there's a lot of cost of effective ways to do that. But again, if you don't have resources, or you're low income, or maybe you're isolated and you live in a town where you don't have family, the best thing you can do is start this process as early in your pregnancy as possible, so that you are able to internally build that trust with people and also be supported. Because the other thing too is, once your baby gets here, you're going to be potentially very protective. That's not the time to establish trust with people. You need to know who you're dealing with ahead of time. You need to have established trust. You need to be able to connect with people, figure out your communication styles with people far before a baby gets here. And so that would be my number one recommendation for folks that may not have as many resources.
And I love what you're saying. Two things that are critical there is this is not a time to compromise, mom. And it's very important that the people that are supporting you are aligned with you in your values and your parenting style. Because if not, it's going to hurt you more than help you. Like things like if you decide that you do not want to sleep train, well, even if your mother-in-law or your mom want to be every day in your house helping you, if they are a pro cheerleader for sleep training, that is going to create conflict because they are going to start putting it there. So when you are finding these one, two, three people that Jacquelyn is saying, is one of the conversations is
Mhm.
this is what I'm planning to do as a mom. These are the things that are important for me. This is how I want to approach things. Of course, we don't know what we don't know, and that could change, but at least the people that you are talking about are aware, and then be confident to say, and this is non negotiable.
Mhm.
Like, and that is especially hard with family, like with moms, with sisters. This is non negotiable. This is how I'm choosing to raise my kid. And then it almost like, if you can respect that, I would love to have you. If not, I will need more space because I cannot deal with this BS as I'm trying to keep this baby and myself alive. One thing, I don't know if you ever watched Grey's Anatomy, but when you were talking, that connection between Christina and Meredith was what came to mind. And that is, if you ever watch Grey's Anatomy, they always say, you are my person. Like they have their love relationships, the people that they love, and they say, I love him, but you are my person. You are my soulmate. Is that connection of having somebody to trust. I will tell you something. When I was creating I was hiring my doula, I know my husband. My husband is magical, perfect. My husband don't like confrontation, and
Mhm.
I was very clear into, I want a natural birth. I didn't want a lot of medication. I was very concerned that if there was a point where we have to make a decision, and for any reason I was not completely on my full capacity, I was concerned my husband was not going to speak up for me, because his personality is, he will be like, oh, the doctor know better. I will let the doctor do whatever I want. And then after the fact, I will want to kill him. So one of the things that I did was I hired a doula that was a very strong, empowering person. So I was completely trusting that if those moments came, I knew she will help him, because of course you as a
Yeah.
doula know she cannot tell the doctors
Mhm.
don't do this, but she will help him to remember to honor what I want and what's important to do that. Not
Yeah.
because I wasn't, it was not fair for me to expect my husband to meet that need, because it's not just in his personality. Then the other thing that I want to talk about the doulas, because this is a misconception that I see a lot, and is doulas and postpartum doulas are a privilege for the rich. and they are really expensive, and I cannot afford a doula. So sometimes moms don't even try, because we have this label of that is something that only rich people do. That is something that I will never afford. So one of the things that I always say is, first, there are doulas in all kinds of ranges. There are doulas that are just starting, that you can reach out for a more affordable way because they are starting to create their experience. There are doulas that are very experienced but had a mission in life to support that and can do some pro bono. You can say, hey, I need a doula that is pro bono, and you can share why you need a doula with pro bono. And my favorite one, put in your registry for your baby shower. If you are pregnant and you have a birthday, put it as your birthday gift. If you
Mhm.
are having an anniversary, every Christmas, every single holiday where people are going to give you gifts,
Mhm.
put it there. Hey, it's very important for me. I don't have a lot of support. I would love to have support from a postpartum doula. Here is the bank or the pocket. If you can donate, if you're going to give me $30, whatever, give for 30, 40, $50. Instead, put it there. That is 1 or 2 hours that I can use with a postpartum doula. It's going to talk a little bit about that and how we can start breaking that paradigm that, oh, the doula and the postpartum is a luxury that only rich people can afford, and actually understand that the concept of doula is not a new
Mm-mm.
fashion concept. It's been
Nope.
for centuries
Yep.
existing. So why you don't
Yeah.
enlighten with that?
So with with doulas, I love that you mentioned that. Like this is women's work. This is work that has been like birth work has been around since birth has been around. It is essentially support, right? It's when key people in the community either consistently support the people that are pregnant, or they are now hired based upon personality and all of that. The other resource I want to mention before I get into that is that now a lot of states are offering doulas pay even with Medicaid. And so even if you have like state Medicaid insurance and you're like, I don't have that much money, it is absolutely worth investigating if your state and in your local area covers doulas. And this is not just for your birth, they're also looking at some of that wraparound postpartum care as well. It may not be as extensive as you might like it to be, but you can absolutely find that. You can find volunteer organizations. You can connect again to those local resources like your Healthy Starts and your WIC and see what kind of connections they have to organizations that might provide volunteer doulas. So you have many options here around having doula support. The most important thing that doulas provide on the birthing side as well as postpartum is that we are advocating for you. We are empowering you. We are not here to provide this, Mary Poppins shiny experience that is, it's very tailor fit. There might be some people that desire that need to pay for that, and they will receive that. But at the very foundation of birth work, it's about supporting and empowering other people in our community. That's it. I want to support these families. My peers want to support these families in reaching their goals in birth, their goals in feeling whole postpartum, their goals in lactation, their goals in parenting. And so, how you start this process matters, right? But we really need to stop glamorizing and compartmentalizing all of this, because at the crux of all of this, doulas provide community. We provide authentic connection. Even when you're interviewing doulas, and I'll say this, every doula is not for everybody. You want to connect, interview doulas that work with you. And that's what really highlights, that's where that authentic connection gets highlighted, because you're connecting with someone based upon, like you said, core values, based upon same mission, respect, good vibes, whatever it is. And those are the people that you need supporting you. And so, as doulas, this is not some kind of luxury. You're basically hiring or deciding that you want your birth bestie and your doula to walk with you on this journey. That's what we're doing. We're walking with you on this journey. There's so many times that clients have become friends just because of showing up, empowering, and authentically connecting with them through their birth experience. It doesn't happen every time, but when you show up in that way and you authentically connect with people, that connection doesn't typically go away. And so when you're viewing it as this is someone that I am intentionally asking, paying, investing in to become a part of my life in a healthy way, it can kind of shift what you feel you deserve. It can shift how you even expect other people in your life to show up. And I think that it's helpful as well to understand that we're like your extended family. We're extended support. So we're not there to replace anyone. We're not there to replace spouses, children, parents, any of that. We are in addition to your community. But feeling like you don't have access is something that really just needs to be addressed because we have volunteer doulas. When I started this work, I wasn't even charging. Like I was just passionate about it. You will find community doulas. There are sometimes elders that have been doing this work for so long that sometimes they just volunteer now because they have a heart for the work. But you will have to seek this out. You'll have to find the resources. You'll have to join the Facebook groups and ask questions. But I just don't want anyone to feel intimidated by what they see on social media and, all the folks, and then they have the pretty pictures with the doula in the pool, and that's the only way that it looks. It looks a lot of different ways, and doula care is far more accessible than I think people truly understand.
I love that message, and I love the tip on the states and how the government is starting to shift, because I really think that that's part of prenatal care. Like,
Mhm.
you probably have statistics about this, but I almost can bet you money that the rates of maternal death when they have a doula are a lot lower on any kind of group because of that. Because yes, you can have your, and this is one that I always hear. Oh, but I have my mom. Yes, honey, you have your mom. Your mom is not a freaking expert.
Mhm.
She is been having years of experience in this specific process. Your mom loved you unconditionally, but the reality is your mom is not an expert. Oh, but my mom had 5 kids. Yes, your mom is also having that bias that your mom is not emotionally neutral in the situation. So that part is like, oh, I only need a doula if I don't have my mom, if I don't have my family. That's not true. You need it. Actually, two things that I want to share with you with the part of yours I know having a doula. I interviewed several of them. And the one that I got, it was funny because she also gave me some prenatal courses. And my husband is very introvert. And after the first course, my husband was like, she's a little too much for me. And then I, for a second, I start saying, like, maybe I can find somebody that we both feel comfortable. Then after 3 weeks, I was like, F that. I don't care if she's too much for you. She's exactly what I need. She's exactly the energy that I want. I really love her vibe. So, you know what? I am having the baby. You suck it up, and you're going to figure out a way to work with her as a team. So don't be afraid to search for that person that click with you, because that person is going to hold you in the times that you are more vulnerable. So it needs to be somebody that, like Jacqueline was saying, feel very comfortable with. And the other one that you made me think about when what you were saying on the is not a replacement, because this is something else that can be a
Mhm.
conversation with family members. Sometimes family members can feel hurt. Like, what do you mean you are hiring? That is a waste of money. We are here for you. Yeah, you are here for me, but you are not doing her role, and she is not trying to do your role. So that is very powerful. Before we go, Jacqueline, I want to talk a little bit about how we can empower these moms to create clear boundaries and expectations for the people that they allow in their space on the early days. We talk a little bit about that on the generic, but how, what are some of those tips that you are seeing that work the best when they are pregnant? And then if there are moms that are not, that are already in the fourth trimester, the first year, still is not too late, how they can start feeling empowered and confident that their birthright is creating clear boundaries and expectations.
So the first thing, and I was going to mention this before, is this does not have to be a confrontational experience. I don't want people to think is something that is super negative. You can communicate in love with your family, your loved ones, your doulas, whoever it is. This can be a growth opportunity in all of the relationships in your life. And so when you are doing that, like looking first and having that level of self awareness and really assessing what you need in an honest way, it will help reveal to you where those boundaries need to come into play. Once you've established what your needs are and you're looking at, oh my gosh, if I say this, I'm going to hurt this person's feeling, all of those things are really personal issues. It's fear, it's imposter syndrome, it's cultural conditioning. And it's like, listen, I love myself and I love you enough to communicate these things with you. Bless you. And so when we're looking at being able to communicate it in a loving but firm way, I think that we have some really great opportunities there to really deepen the relationships in our lives. And so the first thing, and it always will go back to the individual. This is not something that other people are doing to you. This is not something like the world is just coming at you. Take a pause. And like I said, as early as possible. Second trimester is great because you tend to have more energy. But I would even say before you're considering getting pregnant, these are things that you need to think about even before pregnancy. But if you're already there, just be real with yourself. What do I need? Who are the types of personalities that I'm dealing with? And how can I communicate with them in a way that we both maintain respect and we both maintain honor and they feel needed and I feel supported? That space, that Venn diagram of where you feel supported and they feel needed, there's a little sweet spot in there where people are able to show up in joy. They're happy to help. They feel important. And being clear on tasks is one of those things. If you have very specific things that you've already decided you're comfortable with, presenting those list of needs is way easier than people just deciding what that is. Where you're like, actually, oh, you want to come by on Thursday? Awesome. This is what I need on Thursday. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's very rare. Either they're going to say, oh, I can't do that, which is fine, or they're going to show up in the way that you need. But the clarity starts with you. So you have to be clear on what your needs are. You have to be clear on if those are going to be consistent needs, right? And so even as you're building that meal train gives you an opportunity to talk about the types of food and allergies and all that stuff. It's all listed there. However, even when you're talking about tasks around the house, if you know that your family always cleans on Saturday or they always do this on Sunday, you can begin to tailor those visits and what you need from people around the structure of your family as well. Hey, maybe we only have people come in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on those days, this is what we need, and be very specific and tailored in your approach. That really helps to elevate the boundaries that you think aren't there. They start to really just rise to the surface and they become very apparent very quickly if you just intentionally look at your life and where those gaps are. The other thing is detach from what culture is telling you, this current culture is telling you about what postpartum needs to look like. You don't need to focus on a bounce back. If you bounce back quickly, fantastic. But it's more important that your body heals from one of the most strenuous experiences it has ever experienced. And so making sure that you are being nourished. We talk a little bit about, in a lot of traditional cultures, mothering the mother. If all else fails, and you don't know how to be supported or how to support someone, think about mothering the mother. How would you treat your child? You would make sure that your child is fed, even if you don't feed yourself. You're going to make sure that if your child is sick, that they have the medicine and the support that they need. You're going to be affectionate. One of my main things that I think is one of the easiest ways to gauge and show up, oxytocin. We talk about it in pregnancy, we talk about it in childbirth, but you want to fill your life with people that get your oxytocin going. If you take a bite, if you love chocolate and you take a bite of chocolate and you're like, oh my goodness, who are the people in your life that make you feel like that? You want to have those people in your life postpartum because you want to make sure that you are just facilitating as much love and bonding with yourself and healing with your baby and with your community. And so being clear on those boundaries, making sure that people have very specific tasks, and then also making sure that you're filtering people in and out of your life based upon how much oxytocin they add to your life. And so those are just like very, very simple ways. But even in terms of like the food, you spoke about your Colombian background, the warming soups, making sure that you have a ton of blankets wrapping you, making sure that people know that this needs to happen, that they're not making you a salad and a smoothie. No, bring me some hot, spicy food. I need to warm my body up. I just gave birth, and birth is a cold event. And so, just making sure that you take this time, you can teach your nieces and nephews. You can talk to your sisters and brothers. You can even teach your parents some things if they're not aware of some of this, and really bring them into the moment with education, with love, and with communication. And so, those would be my top things that I would
I
say.
love that. One thing that I want to share there, that I think is important, especially because we don't know if we are going to be one of those 20-30% moms that suffered postpartum depression and anxiety, is that people, that list of human chocolate that create your oxytocin, make sure that the closest people person to you, your partner, your mom, had a copy of that list with their phone numbers. That was game changer for me, because my husband, I was in depression, I was having problems, my baby latching and all that. My husband had those numbers, so my husband a lot of times called them and say, hey, she really needs you today, she's really having a hard day today, and they will show up. I was so immersed in my depression, in my bubble, that even when I knew they were there, I was not even thinking on calling them. So having that also plan B of having somebody else that has almost like, this is your 911 emergency. If you are seeing me down, if you are seeing me struggling, this is the people that I need you to call and say, 911, I need backup, reinforce, show, bring your ass back to the house. We need you, because that is what they are for, right? So I love that. And also one thing, honoring you and all the doulas, if I could regret one thing about my experience, was I wish I knew a lot more about postpartum doula and postpartum care, so I had a lot more support than what I got. So I still had, at least I still have, like, I think that 60 or 80 hours. Knowing all of this, I wish I found a way to have a lot more care. That is my regret, that I didn't have enough. So, um, Jacquelyn, we are getting close to the end. If you can give one message to our audience and then share with them how they can connect with you. I know that you have a foundation, so is if they need help and support, and or if they fall in love with what you are doing and want to support the foundation, how people can reach you.
Absolutely. So our nonprofit is Okionu Birth Foundation, Okionu birthfoundation.org is the easiest place to find out about our programming, to donate to the cause. We connect specifically with low income BIPOC postpartum families, so Black, Latino, Asian, Indigenous families, whomever is in need. At this point in the world, we're not super stringent on the low income piece because we understand that people have different family dynamics. And so if you're a stay-at-home mom, but you may not have access to the money in your family, we really take into consideration all of those elements, and we just want to support people that are in need. In terms of what I would say, you are absolutely valuable. You are worthy of support. And it's not something that women of color hear often. We are normally looked to for support. And I just want to let anyone that's watching know that you are actually worthy of being supported the way that you pour out support in others. There's no shame, there should be no guilt attached to receiving a smidget of the love that you pour out into the world.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, and for everybody that is watching. If you need support, please make sure that you go to Okionu Birth Foundation. And then for the moms that had them in, go and donate. Donate whatever you can so we can help each other to thrive. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.